Hello learners, I Dr. Akhilesh Kumar, Assistant Professor at Vardhaman Mahaveer Open University Kota, welcome you. Today in this class, we will discuss about different models of disabilities. There are different models of studying disabilities which views disability from their perspective, which have different connotations. But before going to different models of disabilities, let us discuss first the three words: impairment, disability and handicap. These three words are often used interchangeably, but they are not similar and they have different meanings. So, if you want to know about disability, you need to know the differences between all these three words: impairment. We should take impairment. What is impairment? Impairment is loss or abnormality of physiological, psychological or anatomical structure or function of human body. Any type of structural loss or functional loss is known as impairment. The case of impairment is that loss or abnormality of physiological, psychological or anatomical structure. It is always temporary and to be cured. What disability is? Disability is a restriction in ability to perform a function that may result from an impairment. This is the definition of disability, and handicap is disadvantage that results when a disability or impairment limits a person's the fulfillment of a role. I would make it clear these three words. Suppose a person got a wound in his finger. It is impairment because it is an abnormality in a structure of his finger or function of his finger. Suppose he has left untreated this wound and finally his finger was cut from his hand. Now he is experiencing disability because a restriction in his finger functioning or hand functioning is introduced due to amputation of the finger. So, you may see like this: impairment is a temporary condition which can be cured. Disability is as a result of impairment. If the permanent restrictions in body functioning comes, it is a disability. But handicap is a socially imposed word and a negative word, a negative connotations. A person feel handicapped if he cannot perform like a normal person in some particular situation. As the definition says, whenever a person feel himself some restrictions while fulfilling a social role in a particular situation, then he feel handicapped. For example, suppose there is a building and a person with disability goes there with wheelchair, but there is no ramp in the building. The person with disability feels handicapping situation because he cannot fulfill his role. He cannot function over there as a normal person. If there were a ramp, he could have accessed entire building and he could not have felt handicapping situation. So, in other words, no person is handicapped. A person may be impaired, a person may be disabled, but no person is handicapped. There are situations which are handicapping. Another example you may take: suppose a person has lost his legs in some accident. Now he has no leg. He is moving around on wheelchair. He is sitting in a class and the teacher has given the task writing an essay, and he is able to write like a normal person. He is not using his leg in that situation and the situation does not demand the person with disability to use his leg. So, in that situation he is not handicapped, he is not feeling a handicapping condition. But suppose he has been sent to play football, there he cannot use his legs because they are amputated in that accident. So, in that situation, while he need to use his legs like a normal person, he might be feeling a handicapping situation. Again, suppose he has been fitted some artificial legs, and with those artificial legs, suppose he could play football. So, again in that situation, he is not handicapped, although he is disabled, but he is not handicapped. In a nutshell, impairment is any loss or abnormality of psychological, physiological, anatomical structure or functions of body which is temporary in nature, it can be recovered. Disability is a permanent limitation or restriction in body functioning due to an impairment, but handicap is a socially imposed word, a socially disadvantaged word, and no person is handicapped, rather it is the situation in which a person feel a handicapping condition. These are the differences between impairment, disability and handicap. Now let us move different models of disability. And disability was viewed from different perspective differently. Like initially disability was viewed as a charity. Further, after charity, medical model has been emerged. After medical model, social model has been emerged, and now right based model has been considered for all the services to be provided to persons with disabilities. So, let us see the basic assumptions of all these models. Charity model considers that person with disabilities, they are the problem themselves. This model also views that they cannot walk, they cannot talk, they cannot see, and they are harmful for society. They need to be kept away from the society, kept away from the community. Their problem may spread to community. They need to be looked after. This is the basic assumption of charity model of disability, that all the negativity is associated with that individual, and individual disabilities need to be taken care of. They are subject to mercy of the society and persons living in the society. They need help, they need charity, they need sympathy, they need special schools and welfare, and finally they need all these things at the cost of mercy, not as a right, as a mercy. They need to be provided all the opportunity which the society can extend to them. Further, the next model of disability is medical model of disability. Medical model of disability considers that there is a problem within the individual with disability, and likewise charity model, that an individual with disability cannot walk, cannot talk, cannot see, or cannot take his own decision. Medical model also thinks that since disability is a disease, they need to be cured, they need to be taken care by medical professionals, by different therapies and by different specialists. They need to be hospitalized, they need some special transportation, they need some special schools, they always need shelter employment, they need finally a special institution to be taken care of, and they need social welfare services. So, the medical model of disability also in many components, it is similar to the charity model of disability. It also views that there is a problem within the individual which need to be treated, which need to be cured, which need to be taken care of, and finally which need special institutions so that they may be kept there for a long if cannot be cured or their disability cannot be treated. Finally, lot of awareness about persons with disabilities emerged in the society, and society viewed it as a social problem. This is social model of disability which views that this is not the individual which is problem, this is the society, this is disabling society which is the problem, and disability is a social issue, social concern. So, disability rehabilitation is also a social concern. The social model of disability views disability as inadequate education to persons with disabilities, no access of rights, inaccessible available transportation facilities, inaccessible buildings like schools are not accessible, offices are not accessible to persons with disabilities, hospitals are not accessible to persons with disabilities. There is no jobs for persons with disabilities in that particular society. There are prejudice and discrimination in society. Because of that, persons with disabilities in that particular society have been experiencing several issues, several discriminatory practices, and finally are subject to segregation. Social model of disability is an effective model which see that there is no problem within that individual, rather where is the problem? Problem is at society level, which is our disabling society, which make a person with disabilities feel handicapped every time due to lack of several services from the society. And finally, the current model which is very popular is right based model of disability. Right based model of disability and social model of disability has many similar things. Both views disability is not a individual case, rather disability is a social issue, and mainly disabling society is responsible for poor services to persons with disabilities or segregation of persons with disabilities. Right based model of disability views disability as a problem of society because exclusion from social activities, the exclusion of persons with disabilities from different social activities. Limited participation in decision making. Persons with disabilities have a very limited participation in several decision making processes, either at personal level or at social level or at larger level. No one considers, no one listens their voices, no one gets their idea to be considered. Limited access to employment opportunities. Persons with disabilities have very limited access to employment opportunity in the society, then they are subject to segregation. Limited access to education, limited access to adequate health services, denial of basic human rights, discriminatory laws. These are the assumptions of right based model of disability. Means to say, right based model of disability views the problems of disability not as an individual problem, rather as a problem of society and different social structures and different social activities. And it argues that getting equal opportunity like a normal person is the right of persons with disabilities also. So, we need modification in our social structure, we need modification in our society, their attitudes, so that we will be able to end the segregatory practices which segregates persons with disabilities from our community, from our society. So, today we have learned the three words, how they differs: impairment, disability and handicap, and further in brief we have seen the different models of disabilities. Earlier charity model was practiced. Charity model sees that persons with disabilities are the subject of mercy. There is problem within that individual and we should extend our mercy to them and we should provide them whatever we can. Further, medical model mainly views disability as an individual problem which can be treated, which can cured, and if neither treated nor cured, then they may be institutionalized, hospitalized to be taken care of for lifetime. Further, social model views disability not as an individual problem, rather it views that disability is a problem because of our social structures and because of our social activities. And the right based model is also sees that problem is disabling society, not the individual with disability. And so, we can, if we can modify our social structure, our social activities, our social norms, our infrastructure, then only we can end segregatory practices. Thank you. Thanks a lot.